Hey roomies, it's Ryan. I'm recording a disclaimer for today's episode. We talk a lot about the new DC film Black Adam starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Spoiler alert, Seth and I did not like it that much, but for some reason we talked about it for like 30 minutes on today's episode. Maybe not 30 minutes, it was closer to 25 minutes. But anyways, I wanted to put a disclaimer up front. If you look down at the show notes, you'll see I put some time codes for sort of chapter titles for today's episode. We do talk about snappy dialogue in our scripts, and then we also talk about the great horror movie Barbarian, which you should watch ASAP on HBO Max as soon as you can, because it is an amazing movie. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed today's talk show. We'll be back next week with our first game show episode of the season, which we're very excited about. But anyways, check the show notes for those time codes and enjoy. Hey everyone, I'm Ryan.
And I'm Seth.
And welcome back to the Writer's Room Game Show. This is the show where every week, except the weeks that we don't, we develop a.
Are you wanting to start the intro over again?
No, we're in it now.
Okay.
This is another episode where we will be talking before we get to our game show. This is awful. I'm so bad at intros without a script, Seth.
Well, the truth is, so many podcasts don't do an intro. They just, like ATP and our pals at Defocus, they just start talking. So I don't really know why we still stick to this.
It's this thing where I think we have a listener base that they're going to listen no matter what.
They're not going to know if we're talking to them yet.
But then you have a person who like, hey, I'll check out this podcast this week to throw them in on a non-standard episode. Whatever.
No, I get it. Like, because if they tune in, they're going to be like, well, they're not talking to me. They haven't introduced themselves. So, like, should I be listening? Like, is this just for them? Is it private? So it's important. The audience member, you know that we're here. This is the Writer's Room Game Show. I'm Seth Worley. That's Ryan Polly. And This is a talk show week. We're just going to be talking, two dudes talking about. Yes,
and we actually have a discussion topic I think we want to talk about. We both saw Black Adam.
Yeah, why?
We also, I know that for a fact that you watched Barbarian on HBO Max this week, which is a movie that I loved in theaters.
I had to brag to someone. I had to brag to someone that I watched it because I'm proud of myself that was the soonest I've ever watched a horror movie that people are talking about.
Yes, so great. But we also have some listener questions and discussion topics that we can get to. What do you want to get to first, Seth?
Related to our main topic, I do want to start with asking you a question. And yes. And it's a serious one. When you see every movie that comes out, I've realized this going on Letterboxd.
Most movies.
Well, going on Letterboxd, I'm really lately I've noticed that I feel like, man, I'm seeing more movies than I usually do. And I go on and I look and I'm like, well, of course Polly's seen it. But then I'll click your profile and I'm like, hang on, he's seen everything that's out. And so my question is, do you have a schedule? Do you have a specific nights that are dedicated to movies that you and Whitney agree on? Or
well, first of all, it's not every movie. It is most movies. It's not every movie. I'd like to see every movie.
But most of them you're seeing in the theater too.
But yeah, so I have an Alamo Drafthouse season pass, which is their version of the AMC A-list or whatever.
Yeah.
Basically, it's $20 a month, and you can see one movie every day, and you basically just pay for the fees. So it works out to about $1.87 per movie in addition to the $20.
Is that
for Alamo?
That's if you're seeing it at a Ryan Polly frequency, right? That's what that math is based on.
Well, yeah. If I see, I think 2.5 movies in a month, I've paid it off.
Oh,
which typically I try to see 1 or 2 movies a week in theaters because it's it eventually becomes where it's super cheap tickets.
No, totally. But I have to tell you, 1 to 2 movies a week in theaters, at least when compared to my lifestyle, that's unheard of. In my house, and for whatever reason, we get to the movie theater maybe once every 2 months, which is really sad when I say it out loud like that. That's why I'm asking, if you have have it scheduled or
it's this hard thing where we have a baby now. We have one kid. She's 15 months old, almost 16 months. So it's a little different than having 3 kids in the house. But there's a thing where there's a ton of movies where I want to see and Whitney doesn't care for it. And there'd be those specific movies that it's we have to see that in theaters together. So I'll wait and figure out until we get a babysitter or someone to watch Amelie. But typically if it's a movie that I go see, I'll just see it at 10 p.m. or whatever. When Whitney's already I'm going to go to sleep. The baby's, been sleeping. Or I'll just, see it with a group of friends at 8 o'clock one night. And just it's usually just hey, I'm going to go see this movie. You cool with that?
How often are you going alone?
Probably about like 75% of the time.
Nice. I love seeing the movie alone.
I just love I love going to the theater. So if
Me too.
I'm going to take advantage of the time that I have now to do that. But I'm sure it's going to slow down at one point. Honestly, it would happen more too if there were more matinees. Alamo, like since COVID,
Alamo didn't do matinees anymore.
Weekdays, they usually start at like 2 or 3 p.m. So I used to love like on a Friday, I'm just like, I'm going to go at like 10 a.m., see a movie and come back, keep doing work or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like a nice little treat.
So well, that explains. Like, I feel like I have an excuse as to why I saw Black Adam, and I feel like you.
Okay. Also, there is a listener to the show, Clint Crawford, one of my good friends. He is a like DC nut. Like he grew up reading the comics. He's obsessed with Superman. He's, for better or for worse, has seen all the DC movies. He's not a huge fan of what Snyder did with Superman, with all those.
Who is that has a soul?
He sees every movie because, like Superman, he's all about hope. He thinks that it's going to get better. And he basically was seeing this movie purely for the post-credit scene, which...
Wow. I'm sorry. Wait, really? Purely for the post-credit scene?
Yes, because there's a certain character that was in that scene that he...
Yeah, that shows up for one shot on a green screen.
Yes.
Miles away from the star.
And I was like, you know what? I don't want to say I'm a hater of Dwayne Johnson. I think he's a great person. I think I love a lot of the movies that he's been in, but every movie that he produces and like stars in, there's like they're all the same movie and he's always the same character. And there's this like sick thing I get where I'm like, maybe this is the one where it's finally to be something different. Where
it's finally going to be a character with a weakness.
Yes.
And like, yeah, he's of this old like Schwarzenegger era.
He literally has a contract where the ratio of him beating the bad guy to the bad guy beating him, it's like a specific thing on his contract. It's crazy.
It's a very strange, for all the problematic nature of Tom Cruise, a big pro on the Tom Cruise pros and cons list is that his character will take a beating on screen.
Oh, yeah.
and he'll have fun with it. And it makes it fun. It makes his movies great and it makes it fun to watch. Dwayne Johnson, the things about Black Adam that I liked were things that the movie wasn't trying to do. And
yes. Okay. Yeah. Let's talk about the things we like about the movie first.
But, okay, are we saying things we liked that we thought it succeeded at, that it was trying to do, or things that we just ended up liking?
Take that however you want.
I want to know your answer first.
Okay, things I liked. Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate, I thought was a really fun casting.
Okay.
I'm not going to really talk about the character or its importance to the movie because... Anyways, I thought that was a lot of fun. What else? Oh, the UI design. Seth?
Yeah.
That was really great.
It was really great. It was really good, Lua. Now we come to my excuse as to why I saw the movie. My pal. Do you know Darby?
We talk online, but we've never met in person because he was on your VFX and Chills. So
all right, then our pal Darby Vicento was part of the team at Cantina Creative that designed pretty much all of the fictional user interface,
which is always the coolest, nerdiest thing that you can see in movies is like the incredible digital, design.
Especially Marvel movies and stuff. And we're all numb to it because it's in everything now, but there's a lot of work that goes into it and a lot of artistry that goes into it. And if you're out there listening and you don't watch VFX and Chill, my other show that I do with Daniel Hashimoto and Michael Slapsky on YouTube, you should watch the episode, look at the episode where we had Darby Vicento on to show. He showed
Loki.
us, he literally rebuilt the Sacred Timeline UI from Loki that he made for Loki, like on the show, and showed us how he did it. It was very cool. So anyway, this was his first movie. He's done several Disney Plus shows.
Which, can we real quick just talk about how important that job is to Loki and what that means to the entire Marvel universe, that graphic?
Seriously, how much the storytelling of Loki relies on that graphic. And that Darby
incredible.
He just held it in his hands like a tiny bird, the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So he's worked on several shows. He's a friend of mine because he's from Nashville. He's young. He's still fairly new. I say fairly new. He's been in this industry. He's dropped out of college, was in this, and has been working in like officially, professionally on this stuff for a couple years now, only a couple. And he's a wonderful human being and invited me and some other folks out to go see Black Adam, which is his first movie featuring his work in it. And so
great work, Darby.
Yeah, and really great work, Darby. And he knows he did great work because I told him throughout the whole movie. I kept leaning over and saying, "Look, it's you. You did that. Nice. You made that circle move."
Hawkman on his unobtainium ship or whatever they called it.
Okay, yeah, it is called unobtainium, right? It's basically.
Well, no, my friend Clint, who is like this DC nerd, he was like, it's actually called. His world is called like Nth. world or something. It's like it's nth something is it's the metal, but it's basically just like vibranium.
It sounded like unobtainium. I thought of it before I thought of vibranium.
Nth metal is what it's called.
Okay, here's the thing about Hawkman, I will say. Oh man, sorry, we're all over the place. Things I liked.
Yes. Also, yeah, you don't have to see Black Adam. We probably will spoil this stuff. So
yeah. Brian and I just happened to see Black Adam. It's not like that's the thing I'm worried about is that we don't do this very often. So it's like, why did they pick Black Adam to talk about? It's going to sound like we're huge Black Adam fans, and
we're making a whole.
I feel like we should put a disclaimer at the top of the episode that just says before you listen to this episode, please know Ryan and I were not actually excited to see Black Adam. We're not huge Black Adam fans. We happened to stumble around blindly
into the theater.
And we ended up in a movie theater, 2 separate movie theaters, in which right at the starting point of the trailers before Black Adam. On the same night. And
I will put in the episode description, we'll make sure to put chapters. So if you want to skip ahead to the next segment, feel free. Look in the episode notes if you don't want Black Adam to be spoiled or you don't care about it.
That sounds like I don't want to listen to this Black Adam recap. And then they hit the next button and it's the Writers Room Game Show is produced by Ryan Polly and Seth Worley.
We're going to spend the next hour talking about this.
No, we're not. So the things you liked, Pierce Brosnan.
Yes.
Is that it?
There was some.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's probably it.
Okay. I loved.
No, let me say real quick. They introduce this team called the Justice Society, which I know existed before.
Did that really exist before? Because it sounded like. Sorry. How was that different from the Justice League?
So, Justice Society of America is a different team. It's older than the Justice League. Typically, it's older legacy characters that are like passing the baton down to younger characters.
Okay.
And it existed even before the Avengers. But in this movie, and I liked it, there were tons of negative things I had to say about this. But if they were properly
Justice Society?
If they were properly introduced, I think it could have worked really well. But it came off sort of like an Avengers ripoff where it's like Atom Smasher is basically like the Spider-Man of the group.
Oh, are you talking about Deadpool?
It's the Deadpool guy.
You're talking about
the costume was Deadpool, basically.
Ant-Man Deadpool is basically what it is. Like
and then you had Cyclone, which is basically like a storm character. You had Hawkman, which
was that her name? Cyclone.
Cyclone.
I liked her. A lady that can turn into tornadoes. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm all for it.
Then you had Hawkman, which if you aren't aware of Hawkman, who a lot of people are,
you are by the end of this movie. Let me tell
you. He's basically like Falcon, but with stronger armor. From the Avengers,
and
then you have Dr. Fate, who is like
Doctor Strange. No, and a beak. He's like Falcon, but with a metal beak. I could not stop laughing anytime Hawkman was on screen. And there's flashbacks, there's like flash forwards throughout the movie that are supposed to be serious where it shows Hawkman supposedly dying. And it's a tight shot on his face going, with this beak, with this stupid beak on his nose. And it's so dumb. That poor actor having to walk around with tracking markers on his face, being like, "You're not going to put a beak on me, right?" No, we're not.
You think that was CG?
We're not going to put a beak on you. I have to assume everything is.
Oh, okay. It looked practical a lot of the time.
It probably was practical. In which case, I feel even worse for him that he had to walk around with a beak.
I think the costume design was really fun, especially like Dr. Fate. I thought that was super cool. The helmet, I thought,
the Magneto helmet,
really neat. Yeah. I thought it was a really neat effect.
It was a really neat effect. The way that they copied Magneto's helmet and put it into this movie. It was really cool. I loved that. I don't know if you noticed this trend that speaking of Dr. Fate, when they go underwater to the underwater fortress, which by the way was just leaking water all over the place. Like Darby,
so much water.
Darby leans over to me where it gets to that scene. He goes, "This underwater fortress does not seem to be well secured or built because there's water pouring into it.
And there's like hundreds of superheroes in these capsules, and I'm like, is nobody worried about this
and
place?
Just gallons of buckets of water just pouring in consistently. Like, can we get some caulk up in this place? Like, I feel like it just isn't properly sealed. My favorite thing though is like Dr. Fate. So they go underwater, they immediately enter the water, and it is just like miles of murky water around them. And he looks around and he goes, so beautiful. Like, what? Murky water. And then later, when, spoiler alert, he's like, it's dying time. I'm the one who dies. He goes,
it's dying time.
It's dying time. It's classic Dr. Fate catchphrase. He goes, for the first time in my life, I see nothing. and it's beautiful. And I was like, he really loves nothing. Like
Nothing.
Like the fact that he thought murky water was beautiful.
Maybe it's the thing he's seen so much in his life that the things that really are beautiful to him are things that are utterly disgusting.
I just think it's funny. Yeah, I just think it's funny that like clearly they didn't know what they were going to do underwater, what it was going to look like when they shot it. So Pierce Brosnan, they tell him to say, it's so beautiful. And then when they land on this murky water, they're like, let's keep the Brosnan line in.
Oh man, that's good. Okay, yes. And then let's talk about Dwayne Johnson. So Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, producer of this movie, he talks on social media as if he's in complete and utter control of this movie and the story.
It's a passion project for him, yeah.
Yeah, passion project. He's been working on it for 15 years. I honestly thought it was one of the worst Rock performances of his entire career.
I didn't think it was. It was just kind of nothing.
That's the thing though. It didn't. It's like take out the thing that's special about The Rock, which is his charisma, and then what exists is Black Adam, and it's this character that is from basically Egypt in the past, whatever, I forget what, Krakoa or something like that. I forget what it's called.
Krakoa? Is that what you just said?
No, that's actually a place in X-Men.
Yeah.
Anyways, he's basically like from like thousands of years ago, he existed.
Cancun. It's Cancun.
Cancun, Mexico?
Yeah, we'll just call it Cancun. That's what it is.
Yeah, so he's from Cancun like thousands of years ago. And, we meet him, he is unearthed thousands of years later in the same place and it's different. But he acts as if he doesn't know that killing people is bad. It's like, it was bad back then too, man. And the message, it feels like the message of the movie is killing people is actually okay because I'm a hero now. And
that is how, if you step back from the character and ask what the movie is saying, it does seem like that. Because like when you watch it, you're like, the character, they actually trick you.
He didn't learn a lesson at all.
You're like, well, of course not. It's like, it's the Arnold Schwarzenegger model of character arcs where like your character is a badass at the beginning and then they're like, oh, maybe something happened to where I'm not a badass or I voluntarily made myself not a badass.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. They weren't defeated.
And then,
it was still by the end of the movie, like the Justice Society did absolutely nothing. Like,
and that was first active.
They lost to Black Adam. Then they lost to Black Adam again, and then Black Adam volunteered himself to die. And then they were about to lose to the unnamed bad guy that shows up in the last 20 minutes. And then they had
Satan.
to bring
his name is Satan.
Sorry, Satan.
Yeah,
Bride of Satan comes back, and then they have to bring Black Adam back to defeat him. He lost at no point during the movie.
Yeah, that's The Rock, 100%. And there's a gag in the movie that I was like all for. It was like my kind of joke, but they didn't.
The catchphrase?
No, it was awful. It was the wall gag of him constantly going through walls. And I was like,
do they have doors where you're from? He's like, yes, that's how we enter rooms.
See, the thing is, they didn't do the wall gag right. The way you do the wall gag is you do it 700 times. Like,
yes.
The way you're supposed to do the wall gag is you do it consistently until the audience is sick of it, and then you do it 7 more times. And the movie just like...
And honestly, even in these days where like studios are wanting things to be memeable, it's like something like that. It's like, that's a joke that people remember because it happens over and over and over again.
And it just didn't happen enough. It's like
even if you subtly do it without even noticing, where it's like, yeah, he didn't walk through a single door that entire movie.
It's the David Letterman, a joke is funny the first 3 times, then not again until the 17th time. And this movie did the door thing like 14 times.
Tig Notaro doing 10 minutes of just scooting a chair across the floor and making a sound. Yeah. It's like, it's funny at first, and then it stops being funny, and then it's the funniest thing you've ever seen.
Absolutely. The thing about The Rock, you talk about his charisma, this is something that I've noticed through trial and error whenever I've tried to make something with a more serious tone, and I won't point to specific shorts. I know I've done it in the past, so you could... Mm-hmm. And plus, if anybody spent any time watching any of my shorts because they hated themselves or whatever, they could find what I'm talking about pretty quickly. But like, there are actors and friends of mine who acted in things of mine early on that were very funny and were like part of the charm of my early stuff. And then when we try to make serious things, I would just suck the comedy. I would take the comedy. I would intentionally like avoid comedy in these things. And these actors who were really great actors, friends of mine who were really great actors when they were doing comedy, suddenly were just completely uncharming on camera and were
have you realized now that you can have drama and comedy
finally
side by side?
Finally, yeah. And it's a thing that I've made sure to consistently remind myself of, that like if you are taking yourself too seriously, people are going to laugh anyway. Like,
yes,
you know what I mean? And so you've got to get ahead of it.
That's so true.
And make it your idea for them to laugh. Oh, completely unrelated. So after they played a scene from 300 at the beginning of the movie, they then have this title come up.
They literally had a this is Sparta moment, like shot for shot,
and
it was trying so hard to be like Zack Snyder. Anyway.
And then Smashing Pumpkins kicks in. Right? And a flying motorbike comes flying into the screen, and a title comes up that says present day. And I couldn't compute for a second. I was like, wait.
Present day in the movie world, not in our world.
But the choice for Smashing Pumpkins was the thing that to me was like, are you trying to offset the bikes or the bikes to offset Smashing Pumpkins? Like
have an older thing and a newer thing exist
and then exist with a title that says now was so confusing to me.
I guess Olivia Rodrigo wasn't able to be licensed.
It was just such a weird choice. So was the choice to have all of the kids' ADR recorded at home on an iPhone with a baby asleep in the next room, because anytime the kid would be yelling, it would be at the volume of a whisper. Like he'd be like,
"That's
come
funny.
on,
I never realized.
We have to go out and save people. I am a child." Like,
oh, speaking of the human characters, one thing I actually did like, what's his name? Mo. I forget the actor's name. Whitney just watched a show called Mo that he stars. He show ran and wrote. He's the sort of comedy relief, the brother.
He became funny. Like once I settled in and realized I was in this movie and I needed to get to know these characters.
Yes, I like that guy a lot. But their characters, like you meet them and they're doing like a quest to find this old artifact, like the crown of Satan or whatever. I forget what it's called. Yeah,
the Satan crown.
Yes, the Satan crown. But they wanted to feel like Indiana Jones style, but it happens so fast. Like they're like, we need to find this thing. Let's go into the cave. Look, there it is. And then she does a Mario jump and they have it. And then he's there and it's like, whoa, what the hell just happened?
It happens so fast. And then
things just happen in the movie.
These bad guys come out. And did you notice the leader bad guy was this bald dude who comes out? And there's a reason this is even more confusing that we haven't talked about. He comes out looking like he's Dwayne Johnson, and they're trying to hide that he's Dwayne Johnson. And his voice, for whatever reason...
Sounds like Dwayne Johnson?
No, is ADR'd to sound completely unlike Dwayne Johnson. And it sounds like it doesn't fit this guy that we're looking at. And I'm sure they changed it probably because the audio wasn't usable in the day, or for plot reasons, or maybe they didn't like his voice or his accent. But I think there's a world where they changed it because they wanted people to make sure that they understood this was not Dwayne Johnson. Also,
that's funny. I didn't even think about that.
Oh, looked exactly like him, and his voice was always coming from like a disembodied place because his mouth was behind a gun the whole time, and it felt like, are they hiding that this guy is Dwayne Johnson? And the reason it was extra confusing was because this had already happened earlier in the scene from 300. Where the dad is talking to the kid.
Yes. It's obviously like...
You later understand why.
It was obviously Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Yeah, and I just assumed, they just cast him as his dad, and they don't want to be distracting.
And then it was like a twist that he was that guy, and I'm like, but it looked like him in the first scene.
Yeah. But what I'm getting at is like, the first time, it's like, oh, I guess they're just having him play his dad, but they don't want it to distract that it's Dwayne Johnson. So, okay. But then this bald dude comes into the scene, it's like, oh, that guy also could be Dwayne Johnson. Like, is there more to this movie than I think? Like, is Dwayne Johnson going to pop up a lot of places in this movie?
Yes,
does he love it so much that he plays every character?
Multiple characters. I would have loved it, honestly. I probably would have liked the movie.
I'd be all in if Black Adam, Dwayne Johnson was playing everyone. Yeah, it was like the Clumps.
It's a whole family of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnsons.
And then Sorry, last thing that I can think of for Black Adam is this kid. The kid goes... When Black Adam gets up and he sees himself in the mirror, and the kid goes,
"Do you not have mirrors where you're from?"
And then he says, "Wow, I guess a lot can change in 5,000 years." And I was like, yes. Like, was there ever any question that a lot can change in 5,000 years? It was such a absurdly huge number for that phrase.
Yes. If anybody is like a big DC fan or a big Black Adam fan out there, please let us know if he has like a kryptonite or something. Because now I'm just like, if he has the powers of Superman and like this electricity.
It was that material.
He got hit with that material though, and he like fell down, but then he immediately was like, bzz. He like shocked himself and it healed him.
Yeah, he fixed himself. But he hurt him though.
But I'm like, if he can just immediately heal himself, it's not like kryptonite where it's like, that actually puts Superman down for quite a bit. Like, he can't just immediately heal himself. It just seems a little overpowered to me.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you.
Anyways, Black Adam. I think we should jump to a listener question.
Yeah, it's weird that we made our main feature of the show a review of Black Adam.
Black Adam. Okay.
Mainly just because I had some jokes I wanted to tell about it. That's it.
Listener question. Here we go.
It's time for a listener question. It's time for a listener question. Yeah!
Okay, so this one is from Rizzo Works on our Discord server, which in our show notes, join our Discord. There's not a ton of activity on it, I'm going to be honest, but
I don't think I've been on it since I wrapped my movie.
Shot your movie. But if you join, let's get active on there. We could talk to each other.
Let's get active. On Discord.
You can network, recommend stuff. We're on there messaging people, so
all the time. We're all over it, just constantly active.
But Rizzo Works asked a question. He said,
Rizzo.
Actually, the discussion. He said, I love discussion on writing snappy, overlapping dialogue or examples or just fun plays on it. I feel like this is something you do a lot in your scripts.
Thank you for saying that.
Something that I try to do in my scripts. The short we're shooting in December, the heist comedy one.
Yeah, you got a lot of dialogue.
A ton of that snappy, overlapping stuff, which I love. But do you want to talk about it? Why are you drawn to that? Why do you like it? And maybe when do you use it? I guess would be the question.
I'm drawn to it because it is. I guess every writer's different. For me, it's a couple of things. One, I find it gets like when I get in the flow of writing, like and you get in that flow state where you're like you have momentum and you're in the zone writing. That's where it is usually. Like I can tend to get movement in the story or movement in my not necessarily the story, but in my writing through characters interacting with each other, like verbally, which some would call talking. And a big part of it is Aaron Sorkin. I've watched the first 4 seasons of West Wing millions of times, and I just love comedy. I find that when I'm writing scenes where characters are talking back and forth, I can justify. That's how I can. It's really difficult for me to write write in a scene a moment where if a character needs to walk across the room and pick up a bottle, I will sit for 2 days staring at my screen, trying to motivate that action for some reason. It like in a way that feels interesting. It feels like completely arbitrary for me to just write that the character walks across and picks up a bottle. Why are they picking up the bottle? They can't just do it because I say that they're doing it as the writer. There has to be something motivating it or pushing it. That's a problem I have. It's an internal, like mental problem I have. I need therapy for. But one of the ways that I motivate so many things is to have another character in the room with them talking about it. Why do you want to pick up that bottle? What's in that bottle? What in the world is over there? Like, do you need that bottle? Why do you need that bottle? And I'll write stuff and so much of it will be cut, but it's literally the dialogue is written just so I can get the character across a room when they need to get there. Another thing is like I've started to say before, I love comedy in conversation. I love, like, comedy needs to be situational. You can't inject comedy in a situation. You can only extract it. And so I love, like, putting 2 characters in a situation and having them react to it and having them react to each other reacting to it. So much of the comedy is natural for me as a writer comes from the rapid conversation between 2 people and the throwaway things that we say to each other just as like an aside. And that was one of the first things when I met with Tony Hale. It's my Tony name drop of the week. Is when our first general meeting was over a spec script that I wrote, and he pointed. I wish I remembered the line, but he was like, he's like, the script has so many little throwaway things that you won't even notice like on first read, but like they're my favorite things. And then he like said one of them out loud, and it was like the first time I'd heard like a professional, like real, like celebrity actor read one of my favorite kind of jokes, like off the cuff in their voice, and it was amazing. And like
freaking love that, man.
So yeah, like for me, I use it as a way to write my way out of, and I talk about this in Writing 101 and Writing 201, mainly Writing 201, which you can get at the Triune store, I think. I don't know if he still sells them or not. If not, I'll just make them for you.
Beautiful.
Which I haven't talked about that in a long time, but I talk about it in like, I'll actually use dialogue as a way to solve story problems and to like develop my own stories. I'll open up a document and do a Q&A between my critical voice and my creative voice. And have we talked about this?
No, we have not.
So like literally,
wait 1 second, Seth.
Pardon the interruption. We must now take a break for teaching.
I love that he says we must now. Like Because it can't be stopped. It is inevitable. Seth has started. There's no finishing. We have to wait it out. I'll try to make it brief. I open up a document like when I'm in very early stages of a story and when the ideas have stopped, like when the lightning round has stopped happening and gotten whatever powers that be are no longer beaming ideas to your head and it's just you and the idea pile and you've done like a preliminary kind of outlining of like where you think some of that stuff goes, but then you're trying to fill in the gaps. And I will often open up a document and just start talking out my ideas, unless it's like I have you, and we can talk about a story. But if it's something I'm writing on my own, I open a document and I'm just like, so what's the story about Worley? And I'll describe it. And then my critical voice I will not censor my critical voice. It will always interrupt me. And I do a whole thing on this in Writing 201 where I do like a multiplicity type gag where it's like two me's in the room.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the other me is basically like ripping an idea apart and asking questions. And the other one is having to defend his ideas. And and I'll write this like it's a conversation between these two characters. And in the process, I'll poke holes in my ideas. I'll find like subconscious stuff I didn't know that I was thinking of. It helps me a ton. And I would say, all right, so to finish out this rant, I believe this is Blake Rizzo who asked this. Blake, if you're looking for a way, I didn't quite understand if the question was talk about rapid fire dialogue or if he's asking, how do I get better at it? Or
discuss. I think it would just discuss. I'm assuming there's more to the question.
If anyone out there is like, I don't know, like I'm not good at dialogue, I would say my favorite exercise to recommend is to practice, honestly, dialogue. And one of my favorite exercises is the ordering pizza scenario where you write a character that's you, or if you have a character in mind, write that character, but then write a character that would make ordering a pizza together a nightmare. And so for me, it's like,
what do you want on your pizza?
Whatever you want. That's the person that is antagonistic to me. Yes. Doesn't matter. Yeah. I'm cool with whatever. Okay.
Well, I asked you, what do you want? So are you cool with pepperoni?
Yeah, pepperoni's fine. I mean, or we can also get cheese, but it's fine. Pepperoni's good. And if you keep this conversation going, you can descend into madness and write and come out with something that like has an arc to it and in conflict and feels you might even find you find comfort in writing dialogue, just getting more comfortable writing dialogue. But yeah, that's me. It's become a crutch. I can't write anything without it. If I'm writing too much scene action, I feel like what I'm writing is incredibly boring. That said, I've discovered in editing this movie that some of my favorite stuff and the stuff that's been the easiest to edit has been the stuff where there's no dialogue. It's just a series of visual like shots of, which is funny because that's all I've been doing in like the Red Giant shorts for the past 10 years. But to where it's just a series of very intentional, specific shots doing visual storytelling where the shots have room to breathe and take their time, and you do the right audio cleanup and suddenly it like works. Whereas like the dialogue, which the movie is full of dialogue, there's so many continuity errors and so much stuff I'm having to cut around. Anyway, as a writer, it's my crutch. As a director, if you hire great actors, your job's easy, I've found. But anyway, that's my long-winded answer. What about you?
That's great. I don't have a lot to say about snappy dialogue. I really like it. I don't have that much experience writing it, but something I do love, just in terms of practicing
is
writing dialogue.
Having snappy dialogue.
Just honestly, in school, I always hated homework, but I was always a big fan of my like English classes as it relates to like reading and writing and stuff like that. But as someone who didn't really go to college or film school or anything like that, sometimes I get enjoyment out of just like finding writing prompts on Reddit or just Googling writing prompts basically, and kind of using that as homework as like, here's a starting point for a scene, and just like write a few pages, and let that kind of be a good starting point. I sometimes enjoy doing that just to kind of get stuff flowing, and it's usually stuff that I would throw away or not really show anyone, but it's just getting you, writing dialogue.
Or make a podcast out of,
Just how funny would it be if we did an episode where instead of developing a whole movie, we had to develop a scene and do dialogue and everything?
Why not?
And then we should do that this season.
We should do that next week.
You want to start the season like that?
Yeah, why not? We have started the season.
Let's okay, then that'll be our mandate.
We have to write a dialogue scene
with
something the two of us have never opened up a document and just written dialogue, a scene together. Not. So
I think we'd have to figure out what we use for that. Probably just screen share one person. That person could be the typer.
Yeah,
love that. Okay, lastly, before we wrap this up, Seth, you watched Barbarian. I know we can't spoil this because it's like part of the fun of this movie is going in with as little knowledge as possible and just enjoying the experience. Did you like Barbarian?
Yeah, I really liked it.
Nice.
Well, I talked about The Carrier last week, the animated show that Zach Dixon and Sam Cowden and I developed with Tony Hale, and that went nowhere. We did spend a brief period of time last year exploring the possibility of a live action feature version of that story. And that story is, by design, just completely bonkers batshit by the end of it. And then it's a story that we wrote that starts from one of the most mundane.
Was this like a movie version or a series still?
Well, so the series that we were pitching, that started as a video game, then became a series.
Like Firewatch style is what it was.
Yeah, originally, yeah. It was like Firewatch meets Inside. The series by design relied on however many episodes we told it in. I think it was 6 episodes, maybe 8. And it intentionally starts from a very mundane, simple place and then escalates into this completely like genre bending. It was a story with only big swings by design. It changes point of view throughout. So when we had an opportunity to develop it as a live action feature, we just found it's really hard to condense this story, this really intentionally complex story with really weird twists and turns into a hour and a half, 2 hour movie. And so we gave up on that. And a year later I watched Barbarian and was like, I think we gave up too soon because this movie rules and works.
And it is that shit by the end.
It is.
Yes, I really want to talk. We'll have to talk about it off air. But if you haven't seen Barbarian, it's a horror movie. It's really great. If you haven't heard of it, don't watch the trailer. Just watch on HBO Max.
Yeah, I really don't. I didn't watch the trailer, and I'm glad I didn't. Just rare for me.
Lots of twists and turns, and really fun, kind of bold direction. I think
it's not perfect.
Check it out.
It's not perfect.
It's not perfect. No, I've had arguments with friends about it that we got out of the theater. I saw it with my friends Jacob Daniels and Matt Black, both writers, filmmakers themselves.
How many movies did Matt write during it?
Matt wrote 5 movies over the link.
Oh, slow day for him. Okay.
But at the end of...
Does Matt listen to our podcast? Does he know I hate him with the
I think
passion of fury?
They listen occasionally.
Oh, well.
I told Matt that we bragged / insulted him.
Yeah, I wouldn't say
in the last episode. But
just kidding, Matt. I have great respect and admiration.
Near the end of that movie, Matt leaned over to me and he says,
"I just wrote 2 movies."
I think he says, "I don't allow you to love this movie. Like I know you want to love this movie, but like I will not allow it."
I know. Come on, Matt.
And I was like, "I'm sorry, dude. I think it's amazing."
What point did he lean over and say that?
It was probably near the end when I was just laughing with glee as this crazy thing happened in this homeless guy.
Was it during the video?
No. It was during a scene at the end.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's okay. And Rene, you should bleep all these things because I don't want to give anything away.
Yes, yeah. Bleep any mention. But yes, bleep that, Rene.
Yeah, and
yes, it starts.
Yeah,
that'll be fun to bleep. But anyways, and then we had a long conversation after the movie about like what makes a good movie, and
it's the worst kind of conversation.
Because I was like, if I sat through a movie and I come out of it and I'm like, I freaking loved that. That was like such a fun time with the movie, and I really enjoyed the experience of watching it. Whether you think it's good or bad, like that shouldn't affect the fact that I think it's a good movie because it entertained me and it had sort of it was a joyful experience to watch it. And then they were saying, well, it could still be a bad movie because of this, and this. And then I asked, did you enjoy it though? And they're like, yeah, it was fun to watch. I'm like, then it was a good movie. So I think there's a whole conversation about like, just because you like a movie doesn't mean it's good. But I think that's it. To me, I don't want to like, if someone enjoyed a movie and they're like, this is a good movie, I'm not going to shit on their opinion and say it was bad because I didn't like it. I would just say, it wasn't for me, but that's awesome. Just like if...
You just said that in the same episode that we talked about Black Adam, by the way.
I know, but I wouldn't shit on someone for liking Black Adam.
I actually wouldn't either. No, that's 100% true. I wouldn't either.
Like, it wasn't for me. I wasn't a big fan of it, but that's awesome that you loved it. And I know 90% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, so I know that people love that movie. Dude, I just
learned how that's calculated. I had never known how that's actually calculated.
It's just people going online. There could be bots. It's like, it's
not No. Not just that. It's not an average of the movie score. It is literally just the percentage of critics that voted it at a fresh rating.
Oh, you're talking about the Rotten Tomatoes score, not the audience score.
Oh, sorry. I'm talking about the Rotten Tomatoes score.
Yeah. No, Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's literally,
not-
it could be, if 100% of critics rated it
fresh is like 70%
rated at 70, it would be rated 100% fresh. I didn't realize that. That's new information for me.
Yeah, that's why they call it 100% fresh, or
That's why Black
70%
Adam could have
fresh.
been 100% fresh or something.
And then like certified, I think, is over 90% certified fresh. Anyways, so I know people like that movie, so I'm not gonna like sit here and say like, yeah, it was, even if we did kind of shit on it a little bit on this podcast.
I'm glad I saw it. I had a good time
mean,
watching it. I laughed a lot.
I did have a fun time, and like leaning over to my friend Clint and like talking about during the movie. And an Alamo Drafthouse Theater that prohibits talking during the movie, but I think everybody was doing the same thing. Anyways, yeah. Well, Seth,
Is that
this
it?
was fun. I think that's it. That's all I have to talk about. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
I don't think so.
I'm really excited
Our
to just
dialogue
write a
scene.
scene next week.
Yeah, we got to figure out what those prompts are. If you're listening and you have ideas, too late. We probably already recorded the episode. But
Yeah, we should just do that as a mandate and do our typical, random for all the others.
okay.
To see what our demographic and
I love the studio is like, we just want one scene.
yes. And every season we'll do one scene from this movie.
Maybe we'll do it like the studio.
We're 60 years old.
Like, I know this flies in the face of union. Like, this would be if we were the Writers Guild of America would not agree to this at all. But we could say that it's like the studio is asking for a writing sample, but they want it this. It's like basically like we're auditioning for the role or for the for the job, but we have to write a scene with these requirements.
Yes. We hired these writers, but they said they can only do 20 scenes where this movie has 21. You need to write the first scene of the movie. And then,
Oh, that's fun.
but that makes even less sense than what you just pitched.
That's why I liked it.
The studio these days, they're making odder and odder requests every day.
Boys,
Oh, the studio's here.
Oh, have you
Wait.
been listening in this whole conversation, studio?
You didn't even call. Wait, have you been listening?
sure, whatever you say.
Well, no, it's a yes or no
whatever.
question. Have you been listening to us?
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for being
Yeah.
so straightforward.
Did you agree with what we talked about, Black Adam?
Perhaps.
Perhaps. Okay.
Okay.
So, what parts of the movie did you like, studio?
Not at all.
None of the parts. Okay.
So none of the parts. Did you like any of it or?
We loved everything about it, except for the parts we hated, which were all the parts.
Okay.
Damn, you're coming out even harsher than we did, studio. Hey, well, we're excited to write a movie scene for you next week. That should be fun.
Sure, whatever you say.
Oh, you sound really excited as well. Well, Seth, I think I gotta go. I've got a heart out here.
That's what she said.
This is my way of saying I gotta go now. I'm a big Hollywood guy. I've got a heart out.
Okay. You don't have to like put like the emphasis on hard. I think you aggressively.
What was that? I think you commented. I did. There's the like a promo from the Pizza Time remix soundtrack that your brother made. And
I don't remember this.
There's a promo, and one of the songs is called Veggie Lover, and in the promo I say Veggie Lover.
Oh, yeah. Emphasis. I forgot about
And I
that.
remember you commented like, "Please never emphasize that word, that phrase ever again."
That is such a weird way. Veggie lover. You just like you made it a subclass of lover, not a. What kind of
lover
what
pizza.
kind of lover is he? A veggie lover.
The Writers' Room Game Show with me, Ryan Pollock, and Seth Worley. Executive produced by Grant Wakefield at Weekend Video and Ann Fogerty at Plot Devices. Edited to perfection by Rene Gomez. Our art is by your buddy, Meg Lewis, and our face-melting music is by Ben Worley. The Writers' Room Game Show is a Weekend Video production in association with Plot Devices. Learn more about Weekend Video at weekend.video and check out writersroomgame.show to listen to all of our episodes and suggest your own prompts for future shows. And don't forget to rate and review our show on Apple Podcasts. It really helps our show out a lot. See you in the next one.